Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So I'm all cozied up, I'm wearing my PJs and I'm ready to have a real conversation about how my first trimester has gone in my second pregnancy. Now the reason I wanted to make this video is because a lot of people say that, every pregnancy is different, every baby is different, the whole process can be different from mom to mom. And I think that's true because my first pregnancy versus my second one has been very different. So let me break it down a little bit and let's get real. So my first pregnancy, both my pregnancies for context, was an IVF pregnancy. My first pregnancy with Nishka, the IVF process, I went through the egg retrieval and then the embryo transfer. So it was very challenging and taxing. But once I got pregnant, my first trimester was a breeze. So much so that I, at some point, had a doubt if I was pregnant because I had zero symptoms. I didn't have any nausea, I didn't have any heartburn, my chest wasn't sore, and I had heard of all these things that moms used to experience when they were pregnant and had none of it with Nishka. So I didn't even know I was pregnant. Honestly, I remember asking the doctor and she just laughed and said, everybody is different. This time around was a very different story. So I had my embryo transfer, I became pregnant, and then nausea in my first trimester started pretty early, around 6 to 7 weeks. I had a lot of nausea. It wasn't that bad that I was throwing up or that, it was debilitating. It wasn't that way. I just couldn't eat much. I actually did not gain any weight in my first trimester this time around because I just wasn't eating enough. So I wasn't throwing up as such, maybe a couple of times, but I had more nausea than I ever had with Nishka. So that was one thing that was very different. The second thing that was different is that I had a lot of heartburn. Now, usually you hear you have heartburn in the third trimester or late second trimester. Your baby has a lot of hair, so you'll have heartburn, which I had during Nishka. I had a lot of heartburn towards the end of my pregnancy. But this time around, I had it really bad in my first trimester. It was so bad. I was really suffering from it. Then I had swollen hands. My hands used to get swollen and itchy because of the hormonal changes. When it first happened, I wasn't sure if it was a serious condition because you hear, your hands and legs should not get swollen. If it is, you should get it checked with your doctor right away. So I was very concerned, but my doctor said it was likely because of all the hormone changes my body was going through. And I would assume that your body is prepped and ready the second time around, especially when you have kids under 2 or 3 years. But these were all new symptoms to me that I hadn't experienced with Nishka. My hands used to get swollen and itchy, and that lasted me through my first trimester. So nausea, heartburn, itchy, swollen hands. I had a lot of headache the first trimester, a lot. Every other day I would have had a headache. Again, all related to hormonal changes, and that kind of impacted me. I did not gain much weight. I did not sleep well. All of that kind of took a bit of toll health-wise. And then aversion to eating. I wasn't eating a lot. I was eating a lot of lemon-based stuff, ginger-based stuff to soothe my nausea. So, from an appetite perspective, I didn't have a lot of appetite. Second trimester, thankfully, was a breeze, and we'll get into that in another video. But yeah, so compared to Nishka, I had all the symptoms this time in my first trimester. On the flip side, with Nishka, I would worry with every little thing during my first trimester. I would research a lot. I would read up a lot. There was a lot of learning to do. As a first-time mom, you just don't know what to expect. So I was very anxious. With this pregnancy, with a toddler, with a 2-year-old, lively, vibrant, rambunctious toddler, I had zero time to think of anything. I was so busy with her. I was so busy with school. I was surviving with all my symptoms. So there was no anxiety and stress. And honestly, now I am in my third trimester. So I haven't had the time to stress at all, which has been such a blessing in disguise because considering my first pregnancy, I had a lot of challenges. I was in the hospital, so I had a lot of stress around it. And this was a constant stream of thought in my second pregnancy that if I will have the same stress again that I had the first time around. But thankfully, Nishka has kept me sane. My first daughter has kept me sane. It's really been a blessing in disguise. So that's something which has been very significantly different this time around, where I haven't had that much time to be anxious or worried, and I've physically been more active than I was with my first pregnancy. just because I'm always running around. And I'm sure moms, second time, third time moms who have like subsequent pregnancies and kids kind of understand what I'm saying. It's just very hectic, and it's just like time consuming to manage toddlers and kids while you're pregnant. So that's been there. But other than that, my first trimester was okay. I was very busy with work. I was very busy with Nishka. It kept me on my feet, kept me on my toes. It was a good distraction, and even before I realized it, I was in my second trimester. And so that was a good part compared to my first pregnancy, because I just feel so much more prepared. I just feel I know what to expect. With Nishka, I would get worried with every little symptom, which wasn't happening this time around. I was just more conscious and aware of my body. So that was a good thing. I was diagnosed with gestational diabetes at 16 weeks, which is a second trimester story that I'll get into later in another video. But other than that, my first trimester wasn't too bad. I did start showing much earlier than I did with Nishka. I think it took time for me to show with Nishka. My second pregnancy, I did show a little earlier in my first trimester. So that was another thing that was different. But other than that, the main highlight of my first trimester was that my symptoms were all over the place compared to my first. And if you're a mom who's gone through it, please let me know how your second pregnancy was. I would love to know your experience compared to your first. It's always good to get some perspective. But yeah, I will cover my second and third trimester as well, and what challenges I went through, how my thought process was, and everything. But this was a short video to kind of recap how the first trimester went. I think the one thing I will say that truly every pregnancy is different. I experienced so many new things and different things this time around than with my first. And it's so important to be ready to adapt and experience new things and not have expectations that things will go as planned or it will go exactly how your first time around went. So I think that mindset is so important when you are pregnant the second time around. So I hope this video was a little useful. It was a short recap. I'm going to share some clips of how my first trimester went, some pictures, just to make this video fun. And I'm always available on Instagram, on Social Nupur. If you ever want to chat, DM, have questions for me, just reach out. I'll be more than happy to answer. And I will see you in my next video. But till then, lots of love.